It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra.
One more time for old time's sake.
With Dave Meltzer, right here on The Law. Live audio wrestling.
And let's go. We're now smoking with the best.
Still to come in the hour. Of course, we've got Ted About Trivia. We've got Dan's interview with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But we start things off to really get into the details of what's happening with Roman Reigns.
Hoop shot on this.
That's right. We go to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave, here's the rumor.
How are you?
Good. We just had a caller call in and tell us Roman Reigns is headed to the L.A. Lakers. What do you make of it?
I think that tells you right there what he makes of it.
Roman Reigns, of course, is subject of a bunch of controversy, though. Strange decisions being made. Now, we do not know what substance. That has not come out yet, right?
No, and I wonder if it ever will, because the only way it'll come out is if he says so, and I don't think he's going to.
Right.
Because their policy is never to release the substance.
Right.
Though very strange to me, the way that it was booked on Monday, keeping him in this match at the next pay-per-view. Do you believe that they're going to confront this on television, or how do you keep such a big star away without saying anything?
I don't think so, because we already had SmackDown, and SmackDown was after the suspension, and he wasn't there.
They said nothing.
They said nothing about it, and they've still promoted it as a three-way. So, I mean, we'll get our answer tomorrow night, but you know, it looks like they're not going to say anything, and he just won't be on television for the entire build-up, because the final TV taping before the Battleground pay-per-view, he would still be under suspension. His suspension would be ending on the Wednesday of that week, and he would then be, but he would be okay to wrestle on Sunday.
This is going to be a tough one, Dave, because the average fan is going to know that he's suspended, and I think when he comes back after not being on TV for a month, I don't know if it's going to be a very good reaction.
You never know. I mean, in theory, it's going to be really. He was already getting terrible reactions anyway.
Right.
So in theory, this would only be worse, because all I know is, as a general rule, the guys that fail the drug tests in wrestling don't get catcalled, but they're also not that predisposed to being hated. But I mean, I know that in the UFC, a lot of the guys would get steroid chants at them. And there have been guys, and I have been at wrestling matches where guys have gotten steroid chants at them, but not lately. But if there was a guy who would, this would be the guy.
Wow. Can you imagine what the possibility on this pay-per-view is with the entire crowd just chanting steroids at this guy?
I think
what if they book him to win and then the people turn on him? Well, I mean, they'll probably turn on him anyway, because when you look at the three guys that he's going to be in there with, I mean, obviously Dean Ambrose is going to be the favorite, and Seth is kind of in between. I mean, they're fighting the crowd because the crowd wants to like him.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when he comes out for that match.
We've said it over and over. All of us have, your shows, our shows, Dave. But that he should be a heel, and if there's any time, the time is now. This is
absolutely,
it.
Absolutely. Like I guess if you want to make a silver lining, the idea is he comes back as a heel.
Yeah.
But even then, even as a heel, I don't see him addressing this at all on television, because. But the whole thing is, they've groomed him with all the charity stuff. I mean, he was going to be the next John Cena with all the charity stuff, and then now you can still do it, and he can go, well, everyone makes mistakes and learns from him and all that, and you can do it, but it's still a fuzzy mark, because it's not like this was something that happened 6 years ago. It happened right now.
Do you have any insight into why they decided to go with it? Like, even though they knew about the suspension before the pay-per-view and that? Like, to me, it seems like you had a perfect opportunity to change up the story here.
Well, they did. They took the title from him.
Yeah. They took the title last week.
They did make a change, and then they did bring him back for TV, because I guess their decision was that we're not going to hold him off a pay-per-view, and this was the only chance to shoot the angle for the pay-per-view. Because I was thinking they're going to do the double count. When they did the double count, first of all, I thought they would do a restart, and they didn't do a restart. And then I thought, okay, maybe it'll build to a match next week. Well, there was no next week match to be had at that point, but we didn't know until the next morning.
Wow, very strange.
The draft was announced this week, Dave, and one thing that really wasn't answered, I mean, it's going to be on SmackDown. We know that. We know when it's going to be. But the big question going on is, what happens to the NXT talent, and how will they be integrated into this draft or the new brand split? How would you do this?
I would be having the general managers pick names, and I would pick some of those NXT names pretty high to make it look like, hey, they're picking Shinsuke Nakamura number 2 or 3. He must be good, even to the fans who don't know him. I wouldn't kind of bury those guys at the bottom because then they come in. And the problem with this draft, if it's going to go like kickball or whatever, like when we were little kids and they pick teams. This is real bad because, the top 4 or 5 picks are fine, but after that, it's like everyone, it's almost like it's a negative. Mm-hmm. You know how, the last guy picked and everything. Poor Zack Ryder, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have everyone there, and then there's going to be poor Zack or Heath Slater or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, it's something that happens in every sport. And as WWE continues to, look at what they're doing with the Cruiserweight Classic. They're trying to present that like a sport. And a draft is very much a term that you see in sports all the time.
Yeah. But there's not as much to see. In a football draft, you have a couple of rounds, but it's not like there's a last guy picked, and it's just every single player in college. It's like just to get picked is like an honor.
Right.
But in this one, it's like to get picked in the first, 10 is probably an honor, but after that, it's kind of like almost like a demerit. And then also, what we also don't know is what exactly are they going to do with the teams like the New Day or Rusev and Lana? It's like it'd be foolish to break up the New Day. There's certain husband, wives, boyfriend, girlfriends where it would be really not good to break them up. Just on a personal level, it'd be kind of bad. So, but how do they make that in the draft? Like, does the person who, so let's say you pick Rusev. Does that team, later pick Lana, or is Lana put on as part of the package with Rusev, which I can see, but the New Day's 3 different people, or Enzo and Cass. It's like, does it end up where every tag team ends up back together, or do they split up the Dudleys like that wonderful time they did before and kill both of them?
Yeah, that was pretty bad. When it comes to the NXT people, do you think they should announce who is going to be in the draft first, or just it's a surprise who we see from NXT?
I think that we should have it as a surprise, not announce it first, but they better be picked early.
Right.
If you go in there and you pick Nakamura like 18th or something, it's kind of like you've almost already have established that he's not a top guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes tricky. And I don't think Nakamura is even going to be in. Well, I don't know. He should be in the draft. I don't know what they're going to do, honestly, because I know Nakamura is still slated for NXT going forward, but he can do both for a month or two. That's not hard to do.
Well, tonight we have 4 of those guys on the house show as well. You got Nakamura and Balor in a tag versus Aries and Joe. So that might be a bit of an indication of who could be appearing on the roster. Kurt Angle. Let's get the update on Kurt Angle because his name has been bandied about this week for both good and bad.
Okay, so Kurt, they talked to Kurt. Triple H talked to Kurt, but it was one of those, hey, we're going to do something with you, and that was about as far as it went. And then I guess on Tuesday, or what was it? Maybe Wednesday. When I think it was sometime this week. They made the decision that they're not going to use him, I guess. And the impression I got is that it's the same thing. They had 3 big rounds of what they considered bad publicity, which was Jerry Lawler, Roman Reigns, and Adam Rose. And so it's kind of like they're kind of it's not like it's never or anything, but it's kind of like putting the brakes on with the idea of hiring anyone with a I don't want to say questionable past, but Kurt has some DUIs and things like that on his record, and they've always been very leery about Kurt. There's been for the last couple of years chances to get him back.
Yeah,
and they never have gone with it, and it's a risk reward thing. It's probably not as big a risk as they think, but they're not willing to take that chance, and I kind of get that. And it was real tough the way that whole thing, their relationship fell apart. But that was 10 years ago.
It's a long time ago, yeah. But wouldn't it be great to have, you're going to have this big cruiserweight tournament and all these new guys getting introduced. Wouldn't it be great to have Kurt Angle tied in somehow? I don't know, even if he just presents the winner with the trophy or just, you know what I mean? I think having him involved with that cruiserweight tournament, I think would be really awesome.
He's not a cruiserweight.
No, I don't mean in it. I don't mean in it.
No, but at the end?
No, but he represents that type of he represents good athletic wrestling. I just think he would be.
The other thing too is all those guys in that tournament. Kurt would be a guy that at least
they'd look up to.
Many of them would look up to. Because of he's legit and he was a fantastic wrestler of the style that those guys are wrestling.
Right.
Well, you also have the Olympic year this year as well, which is always a nice tie-in.
And that's another reason why you could say to bring him back, but it's also, but from their standpoint, from WWE standpoint, it is a risk, and they don't need the risk, and it can if it backfires on them, you know what I mean. Vince would probably never forgive himself for the decision, so. They don't need anyone right now. I mean, that's the key. And if Kurt was 34 and Kurt was still going to have many, many years to go, because as far as matches go, Kurt really, I don't want to say he's done, because I just watched his match with Zack Sabre a couple weeks ago, and it was pretty damn good. But at best you're going to get Kurt, wrestling like the Undertaker, with a match or two a year,
right?
And he'll be great in that match or two a year, but. And even then, you probably only have a couple of those left. And then the risk is what if something happens during that period? They're just so leery about that, and I get it. They got a lot of sponsors, and they're really trying to present a product that's. I mean, I don't want to say wholesome because it's wrestling, but they want to present a product that the sponsors won't run from and make decisions that the sponsors won't look and go like, how did you ever make this decision?
Couple other names, Dave, I wanted to ask about from Ring of Honor that are leaving and maybe status on where they're going. First off, Moose. What's up with Moose? Moose
is back up in the air right now. He could go anywhere. I mean, it looked like it was WWE a couple days ago, but
right?
WWE kind of pumped the brakes on him as well. So they didn't. It's not like it's a no, he'll never come in, but it's kind of like the impression I got is that not right now.
Oh. Wow, that's interesting kind of change.
WWE that pumped the brakes.
It could be ROH. ROH is under the impression that they don't know. It could be Lucha Underground. It could be TNA. TNA wants them really bad.
Right.
I mean, TNA made the best offer, but WWE was probably. In the one that was probably going to get him had they not pumped the brakes on it in the last couple of days.
Yeah, very interesting. And the other one I'm curious about too, Dave, is Roderick Strong. Do we know what's happening there?
I can't say for sure, but I would say leaning WWE for sure because I was told like he's going to finish up with PWG soon. So if he was going to, we know he's leaving Ring of Honor.
Yes.
They announced that announced it this weekend, or during the week. So your options are New Japan. He's not in the G1. I know that, even though I don't know who's in the G1. I know he's not.
Okay.
And then you've got TNA, and then you've got WWE. But the thing is, if he was in TNA, he wouldn't have to finish up in PWG because TNA guys are allowed to go to PWG, and he loves working PWG. So when I heard he's done with PWG by process of elimination, that kind of puts WWE in the lead of speculation.
And finally, the new up-and-comer Vader will be having a match with Will Ospreay. Do you foresee Vader going over?
That would be so stupid if Vader went over. I mean, think about it.
Yes.
Especially in the UK, because this guy is like so over for winning that junior tournament.
Yes.
And it's just like, don't put the brakes on him now. I mean, Vader's 61 years old.
Yeah, I think
to put the guy over.
Yeah,
I don't even think that should be debatable.
Yeah, no, I think Vader's probably really just going to kind of stand around and give Ospreay lots of chance to do his different moves. I mean,
that's a weird match because it's not exactly the kind of match Ospreay usually has.
It'd be a challenge.
He can't be. It's like number one.
It's a good challenge for him.
It will be a challenge to see how versatile he is, but Vader, again, Vader was one of the all-time greats, but the last time I saw him, I mean, it was
not good.
He was he's slow. He's 61 years old and you're 300 pounds plus. Yeah. You're going to be slow.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, aside from whatever happens on Tuesday, what do we got in the Observer this week?
Hopefully, Gypsy Joe's story, which is a real cool one. Dan, you'll like it.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
And then coverage of Ultima Lucha, coverage of the Cruiserweight Classic, Ryan Jimmo story.
Yes,
we just heard that. Just heard that news. I mean, just like in the last hour or so.
Yeah.
And then I saw that you had it on your newscast and everything.
Yeah.
But that's so. Those are things for sure. And then again, whatever breaks on, whatever catastrophe happens on Tuesday.
It is true. All right. Well, Dave, we look forward to that, and we will chat with you next week at this very same time.
Okay. Have a great week.
Dave Meltzer, WrestlingObserver.com. Find his work.